The alien princess reunited with her human savior. What she said stunned the galaxy. From a distance, the city of Varin looked peaceful, almost like a painting, a delicate balance of spires and glass domes stretching toward the sky. Yet beneath its beauty, the city was alive with tension. Factions of the ruling council had begun arguing openly, and rumors of betrayal traveled faster than the wind. In a hidden chamber beneath the city, Princess Elira moved silently, her slender frame barely disturbing the dust of the secret tunnels. Her green eyes, the color of Lithuria's forests, scanned the map projected in front of her. Lines and symbols pulsed softly, showing the positions of rebel forces and loyalists. She traced a finger along a cluster of dots marking the eastern border. If the council discovered her presence, she would be captured, or worse. Elira's thoughts wandered briefly, back to a memory she had tried hard to forget. A small ship hurtling through the sky, alarms blaring, shadows of armed men rushing toward her. And then a human figure stepping between her and danger. His hands were steady, his eyes unwavering, even though the explosion behind them could have destroyed them both. That human had been her savior, Captain Elias Kane. She shook her head, trying to focus. Memories were dangerous in times like these. Yet she could not deny the truth. Elias had changed her life. Without him, she would not have escaped the massacre that had claimed her parents and nearly ended her entire species' royal line. Far away in the outer rim of the galaxy, Elias Kane sat in the cockpit of his ship, the Vanguard. The ship was not the largest or the most technologically advanced, but it was sturdy, reliable, and had carried him across countless star systems. Elias' brown eyes were fixed on a holographic star map projected in front of him. He traced his finger along several star systems, noting the anomalies reported by distant sensors. Though he had traveled thousands of light years since that day, Elias could still remember the look of fear and determination in the young princess's eyes. He had rescued her because it was the right thing to do. No reward, no glory, but it had stayed with him. Saving her had been more than a mission, it had been a turning point in his life. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A signal flashed on the console, a faint, coded transmission. Elias frowned. The frequency was unusual, almost ancient, and yet familiar. His fingers danced over the controls, decoding the signal piece by piece. His heart raced as he realized what it was, a message from Lithuria, from someone who could only be one person, Elira. Back on Lithuria, Elira sat in the shadows of the sanctuary she had made for herself. The room smelled of metal and oil, the scent of old machinery and new life blending together. Her hands hovered over the communicator. She hesitated. Sending a signal to Elias was risky. If the coalition intercepted it, both of them could die. Yet she knew she had no choice. She needed him. Finally, she pressed the sequence of codes that only he would recognize. The message was simple but urgent. Elira, in danger. You are the only hope. Come quickly. Elias read the message again, disbelief and determination battling within him. Lithuria was not a place most humans could even find on a map. Yet somehow, this tiny signal had reached him, carried across light years through the emptiness of space. Without hesitation, he entered the coordinates into the Vanguard's navigation system. The stars outside his cockpit streaked into lines as the ship engaged its faster-than-light drive. Elias leaned back in his seat, his mind racing with strategy. He did not know exactly what awaited him, but he knew two things. Elira was in danger, and humans always found a way to turn the impossible into possible. Meanwhile, Elira prepared for what she knew could be the beginning of a long, dangerous journey. She packed only what she could carry: maps, communication devices, and a few small weapons. She had trained herself for combat and survival, but she also knew that her greatest strength had never been in fighting alone. It had been in alliances, trust, and courage. The galaxy was vast, filled with species more advanced than humans in technology, strength, and speed. Yet the human capacity to adapt, improvise, and endure was unmatched. Elira remembered the countless times she had seen Elias survive situations that should have ended him. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but in ways that often turned the tide in impossible circumstances. As the Vanguard raced across the galaxy, Elias thought about the message he had received. The coalition that had exiled Elira was more dangerous than he had ever imagined. They controlled planets, fleets, and resources that made even the most powerful human forces seem small. Yet he was not alone. Humans had survived wars, plagues, and disasters. Humans had always adapted, and now they would face the galaxy's greatest challenge together. Elira's journey was just as perilous. She moved through hidden tunnels beneath Varen, avoiding patrols that scoured the city for rebels and traitors. Her every step required calculation. One mistake could mean capture or death, yet despite the danger, she felt a spark of hope. Elias was coming. The human who had once saved her would come again. Hours later, the vanguard dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the outskirts of Lithuria. Elias gazed at the planet, its twin suns casting a warm glow over forests and mountains. He had never seen such beauty, yet he knew beauty often hid peril. Rebels and loyalists clashed across its surface. The coalition's shadow loomed large, and the safety of the princess, and possibly the future of her planet, depended on him. Elias activated his ship's cloaking system, silently descending toward the planet's hidden sanctuary. He reviewed the plans Elira had sent, memorizing the tunnels, entrances, and escape routes. Every step mattered. Every decision could change the course of the mission. Yet he remained calm. This was what humans did best, facing overwhelming odds with focus, courage, and ingenuity. Deep in the sanctuary, Elira prepared herself. She checked her weapons, verified communications, and mapped the interior passages in her mind. She could hear the distant hum of patrol ships overhead, but her fear was tempered by resolve. She had survived worse, and soon Elias would be there. She hoped he had not changed. She hoped he would remember her. As the sun set fully over Lithuria, shadows lengthening across the land, two lives separated by light years were about to converge. One, a princess with the weight of an empire on her shoulders. The other, a human whose courage and ingenuity had already shaped the fate of a world. And so, the story of reunion, bravery, and the indomitable spirit of humans began. Neither knew what dangers awaited them, but one truth was clear. Wherever humans went, hope followed. And wherever hope went, the impossible became possible. The night deepened over Lithuria. Stars twinkled like distant beacons, guiding the way for a hero from another world. Elira whispered softly, almost to herself, "Come quickly, Elias, the galaxy waits for you." In the cold vastness of space, the vanguard glided silently toward the planet, carrying the man who had once saved a princess, and would do so again. And somewhere deep in both their hearts, a bond forged years ago remained unbroken, stronger than fear, stronger than distance, stronger than the galaxy itself. The adventure was only beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars stretched endlessly before the vanguard, twinkling like tiny beacons guiding the way across the dark ocean of space. Captain Elias Kane's hands moved confidently over the controls, adjusting speed and trajectory as he navigated through the less charted sectors of the galaxy. Every star system he passed was a reminder of the vastness of space, but also of the determination that defined humans. Elias had flown through many dangerous regions before, yet nothing compared to the challenge that lay ahead, reaching Lithuria in time to save Princess Elira. He thought of her often, the bravery in her eyes, the intelligence in her decisions, and the unshakable courage that had stayed with her even after all these years. Humans were not the strongest in the galaxy, but they were resourceful, adaptable, and fearless when the stakes were high. And Elias planned to prove that once again. As he guided the ship closer to the Lithurian system, the first obstacle appeared, a dense asteroid field. The rocks, some larger than small cities, drifted slowly at first, but their paths were unpredictable. Any collision could tear the vanguard apart. Elias leaned forward, analyzing the patterns, remembering the calculations he had learned on Earth space academies, and improvising as needed. "Autopilot off," he muttered. His hands flew over the controls, nudging the ship this way and that. He timed his movements carefully, weaving between massive asteroids. One brushed dangerously close to the hull, causing the ship to shudder, but Elias held steady. A grin crept across his face. Humans thrived on challenges like this. While others might fear the chaos, Elias used it to sharpen his instincts. Minutes passed like hours as he maneuvered through the field. Outside, the sun glinted off the ice-covered rocks, creating a dazzling display of light and shadow. Elias felt a rush of exhilaration. Every decision mattered, every move counted, and when the vanguard finally emerged unscathed on the other side, Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Humans survived, adapted, and succeeded where others might have failed, but the dangers were far from over. Sensors picked up an unusual signature nearby, a small fleet of ships moving toward Lithuria. Elias frowned. Their markings were unfamiliar, but their formation suggested discipline and experience. Pirates, mercenaries, or something far more dangerous. Whatever they were, he knew they would not hesitate to attack. Elias made a decision. Rather than avoid them, he would prepare. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators. Using the ship's limited resources, he deployed decoys and shield adjustments, creating the illusion of multiple ships where there was only one. When the fleet approached, expecting an easy target, they were confused by the unexpected maneuvers. Elias seized the opportunity, slipping past them undetected. Far below on Lithuria, Elira moved carefully through the sanctuary's tunnels. Her senses were sharp, trained to notice the slightest disturbance. Though the sanctuary was hidden, she knew the Coalition's forces were relentless and would eventually discover her location. She checked her weapons and communications devices, ensuring everything was ready. Yet even in the darkness, hope burned brightly in her heart. Elias was coming. She paused for a moment, listening. The faint hum of the planet's energy field surrounded her, but no enemy was near. She allowed herself a small smile. The human who had once saved her had crossed countless light years, braving dangers she could barely imagine. Humans were remarkable creatures, unpredictable, brave, and capable of extraordinary feats. And soon, their fates would converge once more. Back in space, Elias entered a narrow region of the galaxy known as the Void Expanse, a vast area where navigation was difficult and instruments often failed. Here, only intuition and skill could guide a ship safely. The darkness outside the windows was absolute, punctuated only by distant stars. Elias relied on his instincts, his knowledge of human problem-solving, and the calculations he had memorized for years. Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up an anomaly, a gravitational disturbance that threatened to pull the Vanguard off course. Elias acted quickly, adjusting the thrusters and recalculating the trajectory. The disturbance was strong, but humans had always thrived in unpredictable conditions. With careful timing, he maneuvered the ship safely through the invisible currents of space, emerging on the other side with a sense of quiet triumph. While Elias battled the challenges of space, the Coalition forces on Lithuria were mobilizing. Scouts had detected unusual activity in the region near Elira's sanctuary, and the leaders suspected a human's involvement. Aliens of countless species had underestimated humans before, and the Coalition was about to make the same mistake. They prepared fleets and weapons, confident that no human could reach the princess in time. Yet they did not understand human determination, ingenuity, or courage. Elia's journey was not just a test of skill, it was a test of patience and strategy. He communicated with allies he had made across the galaxy, sharing information and forming temporary alliances. Humans were known to be solitary explorers, but when needed, they could coordinate brilliantly with others, creating networks that spanned light years. With careful planning, he ensured that no one would interfere with his mission to reach Lithuria. As he approached the Lithurian system, he slowed the ship, using its cloaking device to remain invisible to the Coalition's sensors. Every movement was calculated. One mistake could expose him, but Elias thrived under pressure. Humans had always turned desperate situations into opportunities, and he intended to do so once again. On Lithuria, Elira sensed a shift in the energy of the planet. Something was coming. She paused in the tunnels, placing her hand on a wall and listening to the vibrations. The feeling was faint but unmistakable. Someone was approaching, someone skilled, determined, and courageous. Her heart leapt with hope. Elias was near. She moved toward the outer perimeter of the sanctuary, carefully avoiding patrol routes. Each step was measured, each decision precise. The princess had been trained for this, but experience had sharpened her instincts. She could sense danger, feel it in the vibrations of the ground, the hum of the air, the subtle changes in energy around her. Yet her mind remained focused on one thought. The human was coming. Elias finally entered Lithuria's orbit, carefully scanning for safe landing zones. The planet was beautiful from above, a mixture of forests, mountains, and shimmering cities. But beneath the surface lay danger, rebellion, and secrets. He had studied Elira's maps, memorized escape routes, and prepared contingency plans. Humans might not have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but they had the ability to improvise, adapt, and survive. qualities that would make all the difference in the moments to come. Carefully, he piloted the Vanguard toward a hidden valley, a location Elira had marked as safe. The landing was tricky. The valley was surrounded by cliffs and energy fields, and the terrain was unstable. Yet Elias remained calm, relying on his knowledge, experience, and instincts. The ship touched down without a sound, the valley's shadows hiding it perfectly from prying eyes. Inside the sanctuary, Elira felt a sudden presence, a shift in the air. She froze, listening intently. Then faint vibrations beneath her feet, the unmistakable hum of a human-engineered ship landing nearby. Her heart raced. She moved quickly, reaching the outer entrance of the sanctuary. There, hidden behind rocks and shadows, she saw a figure emerge, tall, confident, and alert. The human had arrived. Elias stepped forward, scanning the area. His eyes met hers, and in that moment the years and light years between them seemed to vanish. No words were needed. Both knew why they were there, and both understood the dangers that still awaited them. Humans were capable of extraordinary courage, but even they needed allies in the right place and at the right time. And now the alliance was renewed. For the first time in years, Elira smiled openly. "You came," she said softly, almost as if testing the reality of the moment. Elias nodded. "I told you I would," he replied. "Humans don't give up, not on hope, not on friends, not on the impossible." The princess glanced at him, admiration and relief mingling in her eyes. She knew the path ahead would be dangerous. The coalition would not wait, and Lithuria's fate hung in the balance. But with Elias by her side, she felt a renewed strength, a belief that together, human ingenuity and alien wisdom could overcome even the greatest threats. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting Lithuria in twilight, the two prepared to face the dangers ahead. Their journey had begun, filled with unknown challenges, treacherous enemies, and impossible odds. But humans had always thrived in the face of adversity, and Elias Kane was no exception. The galaxy was vast and uncertain, but in that hidden valley, a human and a princess stood ready to change the course of history. Together, they would prove that courage, intelligence, and the human spirit could shine brighter than the stars themselves. And somewhere in the shadows, the coalition watched, unaware that their greatest threat was not advanced weapons, strategy, or fleets, but the indomitable courage of a human and the unwavering hope of a princess. The adventure was far from over, but the first step had been taken. And the galaxy, unknowingly, was about to witness a story of heroism, unity, and the incredible power of humans. The hidden valley was quiet, but the air was thick with tension. Tall cliffs surrounded the sanctuary, their shadows stretching long across the ground as twilight deepened. Birds and small creatures, unaware of the danger above, moved cautiously through the underbrush. For Elira, every sound was amplified, every vibration in the earth a warning. She had waited years for this moment, yet the stakes had never been higher. She crouched near the outer entrance, listening intently. The subtle hum of a ship's engine had faded as it touched down silently among the rocks. Her heart raced with anticipation. Finally, the human who had saved her so long ago emerged from the shadows of the valley. Tall, strong, confident, yet careful, Captain Elias Kane had arrived. Elias scanned the surroundings, his eyes sharp, alert to every detail. "Elira," he called softly, just enough for her to hear. "I'm here, you're safe now." The princess stepped forward, her face lighting up with relief. "You came," she whispered. "I knew you would." There was no time for long greetings. The sanctuary was hidden but not invincible. The coalition had spies and patrols everywhere, and their movements were becoming more aggressive. Elira led Elias through the tunnels, her steps precise and practiced. Every twist and turn of the labyrinthine sanctuary was familiar to her, but Elias followed closely, his human instinct for observation and memory helping him keep pace. As they moved, Elira explained the current situation. "The coalition knows I survived. They are sending scouts to find the sanctuary. Soon they will attack." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "We have to act fast. I have plans, but I need your help." Elias nodded, understanding immediately. Humans thrived in impossible situations, using brains more than strength, strategy more than sheer power. "Then let's make them regret underestimating us," he said with a determined smile. The first challenge appeared sooner than they expected. A patrol of coalition drones, sleek and silent, approached the outer perimeter. Elira and Elias crouched behind rocks, observing their movements. The drones scanned the valley methodically, their sensors searching for hidden life. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and the sanctuary would be exposed. Elias scanned the drones carefully. "We need a distraction," he whispered. Humans were masters of improvisation, and he already had an idea. He pulled a small device from his pocket, a simple electromagnetic pulse generator. "This should give us a few minutes," he said. Elira nodded, impressed. She had seen humans solve problems with speed and creativity before, and Elias was proving it again. He activated the device, sending a pulse that briefly disabled the drones. Sparks flew, and the machines spun in confusion. The patrol retreated, giving the human and princess a narrow window to move deeper into the sanctuary. They navigated through winding corridors, past hidden traps and silent guard posts. Elira's knowledge of the terrain was unmatched, but Elias contributed too, spotting weaknesses and improvising ways to secure passages. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest in the galaxy, but they were clever, adaptable, and fearless in the face of danger. Together, they made a formidable team. Finally, they reached the command center of the sanctuary, a room filled with monitors, communication devices, and star maps. Elira activated the main screen, bringing up a holographic display of the surrounding region. "This is where we fight," she said, her voice steady. "The Coalition will try to take control of this valley. If they succeed, the sanctuary falls and all hope is lost." Elias studied the display carefully. "We need to think like them, anticipate their moves, and turn their strengths against them," he said. Humans had a unique way of seeing opportunities where others saw only obstacles. "We can use the terrain, our knowledge of the sanctuary, and our own technology. They won't expect us to fight back strategically." Elira smiled faintly. She had planned defenses, but the human perspective added something new, a layer of unpredictability that the Coalition could not anticipate. Together, they began preparing traps, setting up sensors, and coordinating escape routes. Every action was precise, every detail considered. As night fell over the valley, the first wave of the Coalition arrived. Ships hovered above, sending out small teams of soldiers to scout the area. Elira and Elias watched from hidden positions, their eyes sharp, their minds calculating. The humans' ability to improvise and adapt would soon be tested. The Coalition forces moved cautiously, unaware of the intricate traps and countermeasures set in place. Elias whispered instructions to Elira, guiding her through adjustments to the defenses. Humans excelled at teamwork and quick thinking, and this combination of alien strategy and human ingenuity gave them an edge. The first clash came silently. Coalition soldiers advanced toward the sanctuary, triggering sensors and traps. Nets fell from the trees, ensnaring them. Electrified fields slowed their movements, and carefully aimed projectiles disabled key equipment. The defenders moved with precision, striking without hesitation, and the Coalition was thrown into confusion. Elira watched, impressed by Elia's calm leadership. "Humans fight differently," she murmured, "not just with strength, but with brains, timing, and courage." Elias replied, "That's what keeps us alive in impossible situations. We adapt, we learn, we never give up." His eyes scanned the battlefield, calculating the next move. Even outnumbered, humans could find ways to create opportunities, exploit weaknesses, and survive where others would fail. The battle continued for hours. Coalition forces tried to advance, but the combined efforts of Elira's knowledge and Elia's human ingenuity kept them at bay. Every attempt by the enemy was countered, every strategy anticipated. Humans might not have had the most advanced technology, but their ability to think differently gave them a unique advantage. As dawn approached, the last of the Coalition scouts retreated. The valley was quiet again, though the air was filled with the energy of survival and victory. Elira turned to Elias, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "You saved us again," she said softly. "I can't believe you made it in time." Elias shook his head, smiling. "I told you humans don't give up. We don't give up on hope, and we don't give up on friends." His words carried weight, the truth of countless experiences, hardships, and victories shining through. But there was no time to rest. The Coalition would regroup, stronger and more determined. Elira and Elias knew this was only the beginning. The valley was safe for now, but the galaxy was vast and dangers were everywhere. Yet together they had proven that even against overwhelming odds, humans could make a difference. Elira guided Elias through the sanctuary, showing him hidden rooms, escape tunnels, and control stations. Every detail mattered. Every precaution could save lives. Humans were quick learners, and Elias absorbed everything with keen interest, asking questions, suggesting improvements, and anticipating problems. The combination of alien experience and human intuition was powerful, perhaps more powerful than either could have imagined alone. As they worked, Elira finally allowed herself a moment of reflection. She remembered the human who had first saved her, the courage in his eyes, the unshakable determination that had given her hope when all seemed lost. Now, standing beside him once more, she felt that hope grow stronger. The bond between them was not just a memory, it was a force that could change the course of history. Hours passed, and the sanctuary hummed with activity. Elira and Elias prepared for the next challenge. Communicating with allies across the galaxy, coordinating defenses, and planning the eventual counterattack against the coalition. Humans were adaptable, yes, but they were also inspiring, able to bring others together, think creatively, and face impossible odds with courage. By the time night fell again, the valley was ready. Sensors were active, traps were set, and the sanctuary's defenses were stronger than ever. Elira and Elias stood together, looking out over the cliffs, the twin moons casting silver light across the land. The first test had been passed, but the journey ahead remained perilous. "Do you think they'll come back?" Elira asked softly. "They will," Elias replied. "But so will we. Humans never give up, and we never face danger alone when it matters most. Together we can survive anything." The princess nodded, a sense of calm determination settling over her. The human had arrived, the impossible had been made possible, and the galaxy was watching, though unaware of the courage, ingenuity, and hope that had just triumphed in a small, hidden valley. For now, the sanctuary was safe. For now, Elira had her human ally by her side. But the adventure, the danger, and the chance to change the fate of an entire world were only beginning. And humans, as always, would rise to meet the challenge. The sanctuary was quiet, but the air felt electric. The first light of Lithuria's twin suns crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across the hidden valley. Princess Elira stood before the central console, her green eyes focused on the holographic star map floating in front of her. She could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing against her, the responsibility of her people demanding attention, and the hope that one human, Elias Kane, had brought with him filling her heart. Elias moved beside her, adjusting the controls and reviewing the messages they had received from allies across the stars. "The coalition is regrouping," he said. "They'll try again, but now they know we are prepared." Humans were always ready to face danger, but they also knew how to inspire others, to unite forces that seemed impossible to coordinate. That had always been their strength. Elira turned to him, determination shining in her eyes. "It is time," she said softly. "The galaxy needs to hear the truth." Elias nodded. Humans had always understood the power of words, the strength in honesty, and the ability to change minds and hearts. He watched as Elira activated the communication network, sending a signal that would reach every major planet, every fleet, and every council in the surrounding systems. This was a risk, but one worth taking. "Attention," Elira began, her voice clear and calm, yet filled with authority. "I am Princess Elira of Lithuria. I have returned to my people, but not alone. A human saved my life years ago, and today, humans continue to stand with us, protecting what is right, helping where hope seems lost." Across the galaxy, leaders paused and citizens leaned closer to their communicators. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as weak or insignificant now felt a stirring of curiosity. Humans were not supposed to survive against the strongest, yet here was proof, delivered by a princess whose life had been spared by one. Elira continued, her words measured, deliberate. "The coalition that is ruled by fear, seeking power over our world and others, underestimates one thing, courage, and courage comes in many forms. In my case, it came from a human. He saved my life when all seemed lost. He taught me that bravery does not come from strength alone, but from heart, intellect, and determination." Elias stood silently beside her, listening. He had never sought recognition. Humans were often underestimated, expected to fail in the face of stronger species, advanced technology, and overwhelming odds. Yet here, in this moment, the galaxy could see the truth. Humans were not only survivors, they were heroes. Today, Elira said, her voice growing stronger, we declare that Lithuria will no longer be ruled by fear. We will rebuild our world, guided by justice, knowledge, and the courage of all those who fight for hope. And humans, she said, looking directly at Elias, will be honored among us not for their power but for their spirit, their courage, and their unwavering belief in the impossible. Across countless planets, across fleets in orbit, beings of every species paused. Whispers spread like wildfire. Humans saved the princess? Could it be true? Humans are more capable than we thought. The galaxy was stunned. Elias felt a hand on his shoulder. Elira's gaze met his. It is not just my story, she said. It is ours. It is proof that when beings of different worlds work together, impossible challenges become possible. Humans and Lithurians, our strengths combined, can shape a future the galaxy has never seen. The coalition, watching from the shadows, stiffened in anger and disbelief. Their spies reported the broadcast, but they could not understand what they were witnessing. Humans were not supposed to inspire unity, not supposed to challenge powerful empires. Yet here they were, standing with a princess who dared to speak the truth. In the sanctuary, preparations continued. While the broadcast inspired hope, the coalition was already planning its next move. Ships would arrive, fleets would attack, and spies would attempt to infiltrate. But humans excelled in unpredictability. Elias knew that success would depend not just on weapons or strategy, but on cleverness, innovation, and the courage to act decisively. Elias, Elira said, turning toward him, they will come for us. But now the galaxy knows that humans are not to be underestimated. It is time to show them the strength that comes from unity. Elias smiled. Humans have a saying, he said. The impossible is just something that hasn't been tried yet. And we always try. His words carried weight, proof of the determination and creativity that humans had displayed countless times across the galaxy. The coalition struck first. Small attack drones appeared near the valley, testing the sanctuary's defenses. Sensors detected them immediately. Elira and Elias worked together, deploying traps, rerouting energy fields, and creating illusions to confuse the enemy. Humans were fast thinkers, able to improvise in moments where hesitation could be fatal. The drones were disabled before they could reach the sanctuary. Sparks flew as systems short-circuited, and the coalition's forces realized their underestimation had consequences. Across the galaxy, leaders and citizens watching the broadcast were inspired by what they saw, a human and a princess, working together, turning danger into opportunity. Elira looked at Elias. Do you see? She asked. They thought fear would control us. They thought humans could not make a difference, but they were wrong. Elias nodded. Humans have always thrived in the face of danger. We survive by thinking, adapting, and never giving up. And we always fight for hope, especially when it matters most. The sun rose higher, casting golden light across the sanctuary. Birds and small animals cautiously moved in the valley below, as if sensing the change in the air. Elira and Elias continued their preparations, knowing the coalition would regroup. But they were ready. Humans were not only clever and brave, they inspired others to act, to fight, and to hope. Across distant worlds, transmissions began to change. Aliens who had once ignored humans now spoke their names with respect. If a human can save a princess, one governor said, then perhaps they can achieve even greater things. The galaxy, for the first time, saw humanity not as fragile or insignificant, but as a force capable of courage, innovation, and leadership. Elias and Elira moved through the sanctuary, checking communications with allied fleets. We must coordinate, Elias said. We cannot rely on fear or technology alone. Humans always find a way to work together with others, and that will be our greatest strength. Elira agreed. And we will show them that courage and cooperation matter more than power alone. Together, humans and Lithurians can face anything the galaxy throws at us. The coalition, frustrated and confused, launched a small fleet to test the sanctuary's defenses further. Elias studied their movements, predicting their actions with precision. Humans were masters of adaptability. They could observe, anticipate, and respond in ways no other species could. When the fleet arrived, traps were triggered. Energy fields blocked their path, sensor-guided projectiles disabled key systems, and the terrain itself worked against them. The human ingenuity of Elias Kane, combined with Elira's deep knowledge of her home planet, turned a small sanctuary into a fortress that the coalition could not easily overcome. For hours, the standoff continued. The coalition tested, probed, and attempted to gain ground, but every move was countered. Humans, with their ability to improvise, think creatively, and act decisively, proved that even against a stronger opponent, courage and intellect could triumph. Elira turned to Elias. "They will not expect what we do next," she said. "The galaxy is watching. Let us show them the power of hope, unity, and the human spirit." Elias smiled. "Humans have always believed in turning the impossible into possible. Let's make sure they see it." The princess activated a new sequence, broadcasting additional evidence of the coalition's wrongdoing, their oppressive tactics, and the courage of those fighting against them. Across the galaxy, species of every kind paused to listen, to understand, and to reconsider their assumptions. Humans were not invincible, but they were clever, brave, and capable of inspiring hope in others. By the end of the day, the broadcast had reached countless worlds. Leaders who had once doubted humans now reconsidered their judgments. Citizens cheered, inspired by the courage and ingenuity of a species they had once underestimated. The galaxy was stunned, not by power alone, but by the strength of heart, mind, and spirit. Elira and Elias stood together in the sanctuary, exhausted but resolute. The coalition would come again, but the truth had been revealed. Humans were heroes, not just survivors. Their ingenuity, courage, and determination had changed the course of a planet, and perhaps the galaxy itself. As the sun set over the valley, casting a soft glow over the sanctuary, Elira turned to Elias. "You have done more than save me," she said. "You have changed the galaxy's view of your kind, and for that I am grateful beyond words." Elias shrugged, a small smile on his face. "I did what humans do. We face challenges, find solutions, and never give up. But the real credit is ours together. Lithurians and humans can achieve incredible things when we stand side by side." The revelation had been made. The galaxy had witnessed courage, ingenuity, and unity. Humans were no longer underestimated. And the story of a princess and her human savior would inspire countless beings for generations to come. For Elira and Elias, the journey was far from over. The coalition would regroup, the battles were not finished, and the challenges ahead would test every ounce of courage, every spark of ingenuity, and every bond of trust they shared. But one truth remained unshaken. Humans, with their heart, mind, and spirit, could change the course of the galaxy. And as night fell over the sanctuary, the stars above twinkled as if in acknowledgement. A human and a princess had revealed a new truth to the universe. Courage, hope, and intelligence were the greatest powers of all. The valley was quiet, but the tension hung thick in the air. Princess Elira stood at the edge of the sanctuary, looking out at the horizon where the coalition forces were gathering again. This time, they were larger, better equipped, and determined to crush any resistance. Yet she felt no fear, not while Elias Kane was beside her, not while humans and Lithurians had prepared together. Elias adjusted the ship's sensors, reviewing the coalition's movements. "They're organized but predictable," he said. "They underestimate what humans can do when we combine brains with courage." Humans had always been underestimated, and time and again, that had been their advantage. Quick thinking, improvisation, and determination could turn the tide of even the most hopeless battle. Elira nodded. "Then it is time," she said. "Time to show them that courage, unity, and intelligence are stronger than fear and oppression." Together, they moved through the sanctuary, giving final instructions to the defenders. Humans and Lithurians had worked side by side for days, setting up traps, monitoring communications, and preparing for every possible move the coalition could make. Every detail mattered. Every decision counted. This was not just a battle. It was a demonstration of what could be achieved when beings of different worlds worked together. The first wave of the coalition arrived as the twin suns of Lithuria rose higher in the sky. Ships hovered above the valley, weapons glinting in the sunlight. Ground troops moved cautiously, scanning for hidden defenders. But they did not anticipate the cleverness of the human mind, nor the determination of the princess who had once been their target. Elias stepped forward, coordinating movements and giving instructions with calm authority. "Use the terrain," he said. "Force them into narrow passages, activate the energy fields at the right time. Remember, they expect strength, but we will give them strategy." Humans were not the largest or most advanced species in the galaxy, but they excelled at turning limited resources into extraordinary advantages. The battle began quietly with subtle traps and diversions. Coalition troops triggered sensors, falling into nets and barriers that slowed their advance. Energy pulses disabled key equipment, while hidden teams guided by Elira and Elias moved silently to cut off supply lines. The coalition was strong, but they had underestimated ingenuity, and humans were masters of thinking outside the expected path. Elira watched, her heart racing with determination. She could see the coalition soldiers struggling, forced to adapt to the surprises they had not anticipated. Elia's presence was calm, strategic, and inspiring. Humans had a way of staying composed even when the odds were against them, finding solutions where others only saw obstacles. Hours passed, and the tide began to turn. Coalition leaders realized their direct approach was failing. They had expected a quick victory, but instead they faced resistance, strategy, and creativity that challenged every assumption. Elira smiled faintly. Humans, she realized once again, were remarkable, not just in courage, but in thinking differently, in adapting, in turning impossible situations into victories. Elias moved among the defenders, offering guidance, encouragement, and new ideas. "Don't just follow the rules," he said. "Find ways to outsmart them. Humans don't win by brute force alone. We win by thinking, improvising, and staying one step ahead." The Lithurians quickly learned from him, adapting their own skills and technology to complement human ingenuity. By the afternoon, the coalition's first wave had been repelled. Ships retreated, ground troops were disoriented, and the valley remained secure. Yet Elira knew the battle was not over. The coalition would regroup, bringing larger forces and more advanced strategies. But she also knew something vital. Hope had returned to Lithuria, and it was stronger than fear. Elias studied the battlefield carefully. "They'll come again," he said. "But this time we will be ready. Humans thrive on challenges, and each obstacle only makes us stronger." Elira nodded, admiration in her eyes. "Your people have shown me what is possible. With humans, we are not just defending a sanctuary, we are changing the galaxy's expectations." As the coalition prepared their next attack, Elira sent messages to allied planets, calling for reinforcements and support. Elias helped coordinate communications, showing how humans could connect distant allies quickly and efficiently. Every species involved, inspired by the courage and intelligence of humans, began to work together in a way the galaxy had never seen. The second wave of coalition forces arrived with more ships, larger ground teams, and advanced weapons, but the defenders were ready. Every move was anticipated, every trap prepared. Elia's human ingenuity, combined with Elira's intimate knowledge of Lithuria, created a defense that seemed almost impossible. Coalition troops were caught off guard, misdirected, and slowed at every step. During the battle, Elira stood with Elias, giving orders and encouraging her people. "Humans teach us that courage is not only in strength but in intelligence and adaptability," she said. "Together we can achieve what no one believed possible." Her words inspired the defenders, giving them confidence and determination. By evening, the coalition had suffered heavy setbacks. Their forces were scattered, confused, and retreating. The humans and Lithurians had turned their limited resources into advantages, proving once again that intelligence, courage, and cooperation could overcome raw power. As the sun set, casting long golden light across the valley, Elira and Elias surveyed the battlefield. The coalition forces were in retreat, their plans thwarted by strategy, cleverness, and courage. Lithuria was safe for now. Elira turned to Elias. "You have done more than save me," she said softly. "You have saved our people, our hope, and our future." "Humans are not just survivors, they are heroes." Elias smiled, shaking his head. "We did this together," he said. "Humans may be brave, but even we need allies. The true power comes from unity, courage, and using every opportunity to think differently." That night, Elira stood on a cliff overlooking the valley. The stars glittered above like distant diamonds, and the twin moons reflected softly on the forests below. She had reclaimed her sanctuary, and with Elia's help, she had inspired the galaxy to reconsider humans. Not as weak, insignificant beings, but as allies, heroes, and innovators. Across Lithuria, citizens emerged from hiding, inspired by the story of courage and hope. Leaders began to reach out to humans, realizing that a partnership could bring prosperity, safety, and stability. The galaxy had witnessed that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, not just through strength, but through intelligence, adaptability, and bravery. In the following weeks, Elira worked to restore order and rebuild her kingdom. She and Elia's coordinated efforts to unite her people and reach out to neighboring planets, ensuring that peace and cooperation became stronger than fear. Humans proved themselves to be invaluable partners in diplomacy, strategy, and inspiration. One day, Elira addressed the galaxy in a public broadcast. Her voice was steady, her words powerful. The galaxy has seen what courage, unity, and ingenuity can achieve. Humans have taught us that no challenge is impossible when we act together, when we fight for hope, and when we believe in the impossible. Today, I reclaim the throne of Lithuria not for myself alone, but for all who seek justice, peace, and a brighter future. She paused, looking directly at the camera. And to the humans, especially Captain Elias Kane, your courage, intelligence, and heart have changed the galaxy. We owe our survival to your spirit. May the galaxy never forget what humans can do when they rise to the challenge. Elias watched from the sanctuary, a sense of pride and humility filling him. Humans had always been underestimated, yet they had survived, adapted, and inspired countless beings. Their ingenuity and courage had changed the fate of a planet, and perhaps the galaxy itself. In the months that followed, Lithuria entered a new era. Humans and Lithurians worked side by side, sharing knowledge, resources, and hope. Coalition forces that had once seemed invincible were reformed, their power diminished by the combined strength of unity, intelligence, and courage. Elira's throne was not a symbol of dominance, but of cooperation and hope. She ruled wisely, ensuring that all species could live together in peace and prosperity. Humans became trusted allies across the galaxy, their ingenuity and bravery recognized by species far beyond their home world. One evening, as the twin suns set over Lithuria, Elira and Elias stood together on a cliff overlooking the valley. The air was calm, filled with the sounds of life returning to the planet. Forests thrived, rivers sparkled, and the people worked together to build a brighter future. "You changed everything," Elira said softly. "The galaxy now sees humans as heroes, as partners, and as inspirations." Elias smiled. "Humans always rise to the challenge. We adapt, we think, we act. But the real power is in standing together, in helping each other, and in never giving up hope." The princess nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Together, they had faced impossible odds, defied expectations, and inspired the galaxy. The story of a human and a princess would be remembered for generations, not as a tale of battle, but as a story of courage, intelligence, and hope. As night fell over the sanctuary, stars twinkled above like witnesses to the dawn of a new era. The galaxy had changed, and humans had proven themselves to be more than explorers. They were heroes, innovators, and champions of hope. Elira and Elias looked at each other, knowing that their journey was far from over. But one truth remained clear. Wherever humans went, hope followed. And wherever hope went, the impossible became possible. The galaxy would never forget the story of a princess and her human savior, nor the courage that had united worlds and changed the course of history forever.